When, exactly, do you die? For decades, we thought the answer was simple. The heart stops, the brain shuts down, a switch that just turns off. But science is uncovering something unsettling and, frankly, incredible. The moment of death isn't a full stop. It's a journey, and in that final instant, your brain might be having the most intense moment of its entire existence. And at the end of this video, I'll show you why this discovery changes everything about how you should live today. It all started at the University of Michigan. Neuroscientist Jimo Borgegan was studying rat brains during cardiac arrest. She expected to find silence, a flat line on the EEG. Instead, she witnessed an explosion. In the first 30 seconds after the heart stopped, the rat's brains displayed a massive surge of gamma waves. These are the same waves associated with heightened consciousness, intense attention, and memory recall. But here's the part that sent chills through the scientific community. Dr. Borgegan stated that the electrical activity in the dying brain exceeded levels found during the conscious waking state. Let that sink in. The brain was more active than when you're awake and going about your day. Stranger still, this activity wasn't chaotic, it was perfectly synchronized, as if every part of the brain was having one last, profound conversation. For almost 10 years, this finding was limited to animals until 2022. An 87-year-old patient in a Canadian ICU was connected to continuous EEG monitoring when, by coincidence, he passed away. For the first time in history, scientists recorded human brain waves during the process of dying. The result was astonishing. For 30 seconds before his heart stopped and 30 seconds after, there it was again. A surge of gamma waves. This activity was focused on areas that process memories, generate dreams, and create the feeling of being present. The researchers noted that it's possible the brain is, in fact, processing memories, seeing one's life flash before their eyes. Let's pause and think about this for a second. While you're alive, your brain processes about 70,000 thoughts a day. At the moment of death, it may be processing all of them at once. But a single case isn't proof, right? Skepticism is healthy. Then came the confirmation. In May 2023, the same team from Michigan published a new study in one of the world's most respected scientific journals. They analyzed for comatose patients whose life support was withdrawn. In 2 of the 4 patients, the same phenomenon appeared: a sudden, massive surge of gamma waves and increased connectivity across the brain, lasting for up to 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The time it takes to make a coffee. For the brain, it might feel like an eternity. And, crucially, these gamma waves appeared in the brain's hot zone of consciousness, the same area activated during vivid dreams, deep meditation, and reported out-of-body experiences. The researchers concluded the brain may be organizing activity compatible with conscious functions, not just shutting down, it's organizing. But there's a second, even more mysterious phenomenon. After the gamma surge, the brain goes electrically silent, flatline. But that's not the end. About a minute later, something scientists call the wave of death appears. A study in Lachi 2023 pinpointed its origin, the deepest part of the cortex. When oxygen runs out, these neurons depolarize, creating a giant electrical wave that slowly propagates through the brain, a neuronal tsunami. When it passes, neurons die. But here's the critical detail. This wave can be reversed. If the brain is reoxygenated in time, activity can return. Neurological death isn't instantaneous. It's a process with distinct phases. All of this raises a fascinating question. If the brain is so active during death, is there consciousness? Out of every 10 people who have a near-death experience, at least one returns with a story that's impossible to ignore. Sarah was 34 when her heart stopped for 4 minutes. She came back, different. She left her corporate job, reconnected with her family, and said she saw her entire life in 30 seconds. And she isn't alone. A major 2025 study found that most people who have these experiences change their spiritual beliefs. They report a sensation of leaving the body, seeing in intense light, a panoramic life review, and a profound sense of peace. For years, science called this oxygen deprivation hallucination, but the new data on gamma waves, which match the brain areas for memory and self-awareness, suggest these experiences are real for those who live them and incredibly transformative. So, what does this really mean? Is there consciousness after death? Or is it just brain chemistry creating one last, beautiful fantasy? There are really two main possibilities. The first is the perfect biological farewell. Your brain, knowing it's about to shut down, decides to play its final symphony. Every neurotransmitter is released at once. Memories are accessed at maximum speed. It's a perfect biological send-off. Most neuroscientists lean this way, but it doesn't explain why the activity is so organized and coherent, not chaotic like a typical hallucination. The second possibility is often explained using a popular analogy known as the broken radio. What if your brain never created your consciousness, but was just a receiver? During life, the radio filters the signal, but when the radio breaks, maybe you finally hear the full broadcast. Researchers propose that the brain limits consciousness rather than creates it. They point to cases of terminal lucidity, where dementia patients become completely clear-headed just before death. The problem is, there's no way to prove consciousness exists outside the brain. At least, not yet. The truth is, we don't know, and maybe that's the beauty of it. Regardless of which theory you believe, one thing is undeniable. The moment of death isn't a simple switch. It's a complex transition where the brain produces one of the most intense and organized events of its existence. So, what do we do with this? Maybe the biggest lesson isn't about death, it's about life. If there's even a small chance our final moments are a review of everything we've lived, does that change how you live today? Are you building a life worth reviewing? Relationships that matter? Moments of true presence? Because if you may relive your life in those final seconds, do you want to review a life you truly lived, or one you just watched pass by? Science has given us incredible tools to measure the dying brain, from gamma waves to their perfect sync, but it still hasn't answered the deeper question. What do you actually experience? The final answer remains a mystery, but while you wait to discover what happens, there's something you can do right here. Live in such a way that if your brain really does play back your life in 30 seconds, they will be the most extraordinary 30 seconds of your existence. Because in the end, maybe the question isn't what happens when you die, but rather, what did you do while you were alive? Thanks for exploring this with me. If you found this as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our world. See you in the next one.